Deuteronomy 15. Verse 1 says, that's a great chapter. They're all great chapters. This is among them. At the end of every 7 years, you shall grant a remission of debts. You know, you look at the practicality of Torah and how hands-on it is on how to live your daily life, how to interact with others, how we are to be in order to have a pleasing life for Elohim. The grace of His Torah shows forth in this section as much or more than in any other part of Scripture. You know, we live in a tough world. It's a fallen world, and sin abounds. The imperfection around us is going to affect all of us sooner or later. You know, we're not perfect. We offend people. People get upset. Well, Elohim in His mercy has made allowances for our imperfections in His Torah. First of all, Elohim is not a socialist. He doesn't want the government to provide for all the needs of the people, and it's simply not possible. Elohim has set up a system where the government provides justice, not welfare. The people are not to reap the harvest, for instance, in the corners of their field. They're also not to pick up what is dropped when they do harvest. Take a look at, well, let's just turn things off. How's that? There we go. Leviticus 19, verses 9 and 10. We read, "Now when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap to the very corners of your field. Neither shall you gather the gleanings of your harvest, nor shall you glean your vineyard, nor shall you gather the fallen fruit of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the needy and for the stranger. I am Yahweh your Elohim." Also Leviticus 23, verse 22. "When you reap the harvest of your land, moreover, you shall not reap to the very corners of your field, nor gather the gleaning of your harvest. You are to leave them for the needy and for the alien. I am Yahweh your Elohim." This is one way we were to provide for the poor and for the stranger among us. You know, on the other hand, Elohim is not totally a capitalist either. He doesn't allow man to be a ruthless financial dictator of his brother. He doesn't want that. The survival of the fittest has no place among His people. This chapter bears out that truth. You know, how indebted are we to one another? If a brother borrows from you, how much does he really owe you? You know, naturally, we should repay our debts. We know that. Especially when we today, we don't really, even what we would consider the poor among us, don't lack for that much at all. We live in a pretty affluent part of the world, but Elohim provides for His people. He's provided for you and me. When we give to our brother out of abundance that Elohim has provided, how much does our brother owe us? Well, naturally, if we look at it that way, nothing. You know, He's provided it for us. However, you know, that's looking at it from the lender's side. What do you owe me back? Really nothing. Well, what about the borrower? Whew, I'm so glad I don't owe him anything. No. You have to look at that as someone who's helped. They've carried your debt and your burden, and do everything you can to pay that back. That's if at all possible. If it's not possible, it'll be understood and should be. The fact is, we owe everything to our Heavenly Father. None of it is really ours. If we heap up treasures here on earth and neglect our opportunities on earth to show His love to our brothers and sisters, what good are we? We can't do that. We can't do that. Look at Matthew 6, starting at verse 19, where Yeshua says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in or steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." You know, in this chapter, Elohim is going to tell us to be generous with one another. We're to understand that we lend something to a fellow believer. He is to pay us back if and when he is able. Okay? If and when he's able. And every seventh year, that debt, it's gone. I mean, what a system. What a system. For everybody involved. To get the opportunity to show the love of the Father in that way, in the way that the world considers the most important thing, is a privilege. You know, I looked at money to be so much less important when I started following the Torah. It's just really not that big of a deal. You know, I like to eat. I do like the occasional beer. I had a cigar the other day that was pretty good. But folks, we're not really hurting. None of us are. But sometimes people do run into difficult times. Let's help them. You can show the love of the Father. You get that opportunity to do that. And that's what Yeshua is talking about here. That is laying up treasures in heaven. So to verse 2 of Deuteronomy 15. And this is the manner of remission. Every creditor shall release what he has loaned to his neighbor. He shall not exact it of his neighbor and his brother, because Yahweh's remission has been proclaimed. Well, that's how we're to loan to our neighbor and our brother. We're to do it with Elohim's remission in mind. Every 7 years, release our neighbor and brother from anything they have borrowed from us. You know, Yeshua expounded upon this also. In Luke 6, starting at verse 34, we read, and if you lend to those from whom you expect to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners in order to receive back the same amount. But love your enemies and do good, and lend expecting nothing in return. And your reward will be great, and you'll be sons of the Most High, for he himself is kind to ungrateful and evil men. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge and you'll not be judged. Do not condemn and you'll not be condemned. Pardon and you'll be pardoned. So he's talking about specifically loaning to our brothers and sisters. This is, once again, this is not the guy that wanders in and asks if we have any spare $100 bills for a man down on his luck. That's not what this is about, okay? He's talking about your neighbors, your brothers, your sisters. I had someone ask me the other day, well, what about the Good Samaritan? You know, apparently, who's our brother? And I told him, well, the question was to the man who was beaten up, who was your neighbor? Not the priest, not the Levite, but the man who was following the Torah. That's who your neighbor is. Okay, that's your brother, that's your sister. It's those within his people. That's who this is referring to. In verse 38 it says of Luke 6, give and it'll be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, and they'll pour into your lap. For by your standard of measure it will be measured to you in return. That's not talking about a church offering. Okay? To make sure the pastor doesn't have to work but that hour and a half a week. That's not what this is about. I've heard pastors quote that. Listen to Christian radio. And they give it to us. Yeah, no, don't give it to them. Give to them in good measure and you'll be pressed down and shaken. There you go. Look at verse 3. From a foreigner you may exact it, but your hand shall release whatever is yours from your brother. You know, foreigners, if someone outside of his people you loan money to, they have to pay it back. There's no 7-year release. It doesn't exist. It should go without saying that we should forgive our brother's debts, but the heart of man can really easily harden up. Elohim had to remind man to forgive the debts of his brothers. Verse 4, however, there shall be no poor among you, since Yahweh will surely bless you in the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance to possess. There should be no destitute among us. Okay? I'm not talking about whatever the government says is the poverty line. Because there's people, a lot of people in the poverty line. Let's see, a good majority of people under the poverty line still have big screen TV and a car and air conditioning. Okay, and go out to eat. So it's a different measure. It's a measure among his people. Verse 5, if only you listen obediently to the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to observe carefully all this commandment which I'm commanding you today. How many times does Elohim have to tell us to follow his commandments? The word is mitzvah, and it means law, ordinance, or precept. The word for commandments, what's that? As in the 10 Commandments. That's dabar. What does that mean? Do you know what dabar means? Just words. The 10 words. That's all that means. These are the 10 words. Once again, that's his signature on that covenant with us that he made with his people. Verse 6. For Yahweh your Elohim shall bless you as he has promised you. And you will lend to many nations, but you will not borrow. And you'll rule over many nations, but they will not rule over you. Israel is to be a lender for many nations, but not a borrower. We read in Deuteronomy 28, verse 12. Yahweh will open for you as good storehouse the heavens to give rain to your land in its season, and to bless all the work of your hand. You shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. Verse 7 of Deuteronomy 15. If there is a poor man with you, one of your brothers, in any of your towns in your land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you, you shall not harden your heart nor close your hand from your poor brother. Elohim will reward us greatly if we take care of our brother just liberally. Verse 8, but you shall freely open your hand to him, and shall generously lend him sufficient for his need in whatever he lacks. Okay, let me put it this way. Do you want Elohim to withhold his blessing from you? How do you want him to give his blessing to you? Abundantly. Be nice. Hasn't it been nice? It's been nice, hasn't it? Well, it's another principle that Yeshua made, let's say, more full for us. In Luke 6, starting at verse 29. Whoever hits you on the cheek, offer him the other also. Whoever takes away your coat, do not withhold your shirt from him either. Give to everyone who asks of you, and whoever takes away what is yours, do not demand it back. Just as you want people to treat you, treat them the same way. He's talking about our brothers and sisters. He is not talking about those who want to strap a bomb to their back and blow us up. That's not who he's talking about. He's talking about among his people. Give to your brother, don't expect anything in return. Once again, Yeshua didn't do away with the Torah. Aren't these things exactly what we just are reading in Deuteronomy? These words he's saying?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
6:30.
Yes.
I can't see your brother basically taking away is stealing.
Right?
I can't see your brother taking away something from you and you not. I can see you asking for it back if he stole it. You know.
Well, and I see the thought there. If someone takes, he says, forever, for instance, your coat, might need it. Might be too proud to ask.
Okay, yeah, I see that logic.
Yeah. We're talking about people among us, people that are Torah observant. He's giving us extremes here, okay? That's what he's doing, intentionally. So that way it's easier to midrash. What do you mean midrash? What do I mean by that? To discuss it. Okay? Well, so-and-so, may have taken a dollar bill you left laying on the table. Well, Yeshua said, if he takes your coat, give him your shirt too. So.
Midrash is the meal at midnight in the Navy.
trash a word, or is it just a slang?
It's Hebrew.
Oh, it's Hebrew?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
We call it a drash also.
A trash?
You know, Yeshua didn't come to do away with Torah. He came to make it more full. He came to give it some substance, okay? To show us the substance of Torah. Verse 9, beware, lest there is a base thought in your heart saying, the 7th year, the year of remission, is near, and your eye is hostile toward your poor brother, and you give him nothing. Then he may cry out to Yahweh against you, and it will be a sin in you. See, we have a problem here with this. Every 7 years, you do away with the debts of your brothers and sisters because we don't know when that 7th year is. It could be an arbitrary thing on our part, but that's all it would be, because we don't have a calendar that showed when that was. You know, I've heard a lot of people try and tell me that they know when the year of Jubilee is. Okay? I'm sorry, they haven't convinced me, even come close. And I'm not going to pick an arbitrary year of Jubilee. And I don't want to pick an arbitrary year of debt release either. I wish my banker would.
Well,
But, yeah.
it could mean, I read it as, after you loan the money, after 7 years, you can't go get it back.
No, that's not the case. Yeah, it's like a calendar. Let's say the year 2015 is let's say year 2010 was the 7th year. So 11, 12, 13, 14, we're coming up, 2017 is another 7th year. Well, okay, Tom, let me borrow $20,000. See, I'll give you $20 a month because the 7th year's coming up, and then, hey, well, thanks, Tom. So, see, that's the whole thing. He said if someone really is in need, you can't say, well, that year is coming up, and I'll wait till I'll loan it to him in 2 years. You can't do that. He says that'll be a sin to do that. Elohim knows your heart. We read in Jeremiah 17:10, I, Yahweh, search the heart, I test the mind, even to give to each man according to his ways, according to the results of his deeds. You know, and people, there's always the danger of a swindler, okay? Years ago, we had one. And he got some money from us. Gave him the benefit of the doubt. But we got to learn from that. Still, I think we give our brother the benefit of the doubt. We still need to do that.
Well, that's a stranger among us. No one.
Right, stranger among us, you're not going to know, oftentimes. And once again, to give to someone in need, I would recommend, this is the way to do it, is to go through the Shamashim, to go through the Roim, let them know someone's in need, you want to give to them. Okay? Do it through the shul. All right? Go through the shul to do it. You want to give someone X number of dollars. X number of dollars will go into the bank. X number of dollars will go out to that person. That way we at least have an accounting of it. That way I need X number of dollars from Mike, 6 times that much from Tom, and 4 times that much from Brian, and none of you 3 guys are even aware of it, of each other. Understand? And plus, let's face it, do you want to take, well, I don't do it for a tax deduction. No, you don't do it for a tax deduction, but don't you want to give the government as little as possible? No more than you have to? Yo.
Even the secular charity does that. The community clearinghouse, they do that. If someone comes to them for assistance, they check with other charities to see if that person's going around in
There you go.
places, and they'll help you and they'll respond in kind with that. But once they find out that you're just
Making the rounds?
making the rounds and going to Crawford County, going over to Alma, and they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So if they have that wisdom, I think we should
That is good wisdom. Operate the same way. That's right. And that doesn't change anything for anybody, but it gives an accounting. Just because we're helping somebody, that doesn't mean they shouldn't be accountable.
So we need to report our friend to the International Charity Association.
Verse 10 of Deuteronomy 15. You shall generously give to him, and your heart shall not be grieved when you give to him. Because for this thing Yahweh your Elohim will bless you in all your work and in all your undertakings. You know, how does Elohim provide for his people? He does it in many ways. You know, one of the ways he does it is that he allows you and I the opportunity to show the love of the Father. Okay? That's what he does. That's your opportunity to show the love of the Father. It's a privilege. Verse 11, for the poor will never cease to be in the land. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall freely open your hand to your brother, to your needy, and poor in your land. You know, Yeshua quoted this also. Matthew 26:11, for the poor you have with you always. Where do you get that from? Deuteronomy 15. But you do not always have me. See, every verse here, we're finding the words of Yeshua in each of these verses. He quoted them all. Paraphrased, most of them. Verse 12, if your kinsman, a Hebrew man or woman, is sold to you, then he shall serve you 6 years, but in the 7th year you shall set him free. Now, let's look at Leviticus 25, verse 39. Because this verse here should be understood to refer to a Hebrew who sells himself on account of poverty. That's the way they did it back then. In situations of extreme poverty, you could sell yourself as a slave and at least have a place to stay and food to eat. In Leviticus 25, verse 39, and if a countryman of yours becomes so poor with regard to you that he sells himself to you, you shall not subject him to slave service. Yeah.
That verse before this one, that kind of alludes to the fact that 7 years from when you do it.
In that one, in this case, yes, but you're not loaning there. Yeah, that's a slave that that sells themselves to you. Verse 13, and when you set him free, you shall not send him away empty-handed. You know, this is a reminder of the Hebrew bondage that they had in Egypt. If a brother had to sell himself in his poverty, he is not to leave empty-handed. The same thing happened to the Hebrews when they left Egypt. Did they leave empty-handed? No, they did not. They took everything. They were given everything. They didn't steal it. They just wanted them to leave. That was the number one thing the Egyptians wanted. Get out of here. Verses 14 and 15. You shall furnish him liberally from your flock and from your threshing floor and from your wine vat. You shall give to him as Yahweh your Elohim has blessed you. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. And Yahweh your Elohim redeemed you. Therefore I command you this today. Remember Elohim, he saved us. He brought us out of the bondage of sin. Don't forget he is the one who's the deliverer. We owe him more than we can possibly imagine paying back. The least we can do is provide for each other and follow him in obedience. Verses 16 and 17. And it shall come about, if he says to you, I will not go out from you, because he loves you and your household, since he fares well with you. By the way, this should give you an idea of how slaves were treated back then. There's a chance that he would just love who he was working for. Then you shall take an awl and pierce it through his ear into the door, and he shall be your servant forever. And also you shall do likewise to your maidservant. This is a picture we have of Yeshua himself in sacrificing his own life because he loves his master. This law is given in more detail in Exodus. Let's take a look at it. In Exodus 21, starting at verse 2, if you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve for 6 years. But on the 7th he shall go out as a free man without payment. If he comes alone, he shall go out alone. If he is the husband of a wife, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall belong to her master, and he shall go out alone. But if the slave plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out as a free man, Then his master shall bring him to Elohim. Then he shall bring him to the door or the doorpost. His master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him permanently. Now it pertains to the man who has served his master and receives his wife during the time he is in the ownership of that master. If the man wants his wife that was given to him by his master, he is to sacrifice his life to his master for his wife. This is done with a piercing to signify that he is owned by his master. Now we see this fulfillment of this law in Yeshua. We read first of all in Matthew 5 verse 17. Do not think I came to abolish the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to abolish but to fulfill. That's the Greek word plerou. It means to make full or to make replete. Okay? Now that word in chapter 17 that says, don't think I came to abolish the law of the prophets. It really doesn't mean abolish. It means deplete. I didn't come to deplete the Torah, but to make it replete. What is replete? To fill it up all the way. I came to fill it up all the way. I didn't come to drain it out. I came to fill it up all the way. That Greek word plerou, it's used in John 16 verse 24. Until now you have asked for nothing in my name. Ask and you'll receive, that your joy may be made full. The Greek word plerou, same thing. That's what it means. It's interesting how translators will play with English words, translate English words from the Hebrew and Greek to kind of make it look like. Yeshua said, I didn't come to abolish the law or the prophets, but to abolish the law and the prophets. Oh, okay, well that sounds good. Sure. Yep, those in the congregation, just let it slide on by. He didn't abolish it, he fulfilled it. Since he fulfilled it, therefore I don't have to. You heard that, hadn't you? That's not what it means. It's not what it means. When Yeshua came, he was a servant of Elohim. In Matthew 12, verse 18, we see the words, behold, my servant whom I have chosen, my beloved in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him, he shall proclaim justice to the Gentiles. While he was here as a servant, his master betrothed him to a bride, which is Israel. In Isaiah 54, verse 5, for your husband is your maker, whose name is the Yahweh of hosts. And your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel, who is called the Elohim of all the earth. And in Hosea 2, starting at verse 19, and I will betroth you to me forever. Yes, I'll betroth you to me in righteousness and in justice, in loving kindness and in compassion. And I will betroth you to me in faithfulness. Then you'll know Yahweh. Now you know what betrothed means, right? Okay. To be given in marriage. Although betrothed, the marriage won't be finalized until Messiah returns. Revelation 19, starting at verse 7, let us rejoice and be glad and give glory to him, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready. Who's the Lamb? That's Messiah. Who's his bride? That's Israel. And it was given to her to clothe herself in fine linen, bright and clean. For the fine linen is the righteous acts of the saints. And he said to me, right, blessed are those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, these are the true words of Elohim. Now, in order to accept his bride, Yeshua had to allow himself to be pierced. Remember, he had to go up to the doorpost and put an awl through his ear. John 19, verse 34. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and immediately there came out blood and water. You know, people can say, well, that's not his ear. That's not his ear. Well, you've never been flogged before. I'm going to assume you've never been flogged before with these whips that they used. That on the end had pieces of metal and bone on the very ends. They got his ears, trust me. Matthew 27, verse 26 says, and he released Barabbas for them, But after having Yeshua scourged, he delivered him to be crucified. Yeah, they'll Pontius Pilate. Poor guy between a rock and a hard place. He wanted to do the right thing, you know. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put him to death. But before I do that, y'all want to see a good scourging? Let's do that. Yeah, that's Pontius Pilate for you. He enjoyed that. He really did. He was not between a rock and a hard place. Now, the law concerning the permanent servanthood of Yeshua is also in fulfillment of the Messianic Psalm 40, starting at verse 6. Sacrifice and meal offering you have not desired, my ears you have opened. Burnt offering and sin offering you have not required. Then I said, behold, I come. In the book of the scroll of the book it is written of me, I delight to do your will, O my Elohim, your Torah is within my heart. Any questions on that? Yeshua is the groom of Israel, and his bride was given to him, and Yeshua gave himself up to servanthood of the Father to keep his bride. Deuteronomy 15, verses 18 and 19. It shall not seem hard to you when you set him free, for he has given you 6 years in the double service of a hired man. So Yahweh your Elohim will bless you in whatever you do. You shall consecrate to Yahweh your Elohim all the firstborn males that are born of your herd and of your flock. You shall not work with the firstborn of your herd, nor shear the firstborn of your flock. Elohim is to receive the first fruits of what he gives you. He allows us to do this to show our faithfulness to him. The firstborn of our flocks and herds were not to work the fields or be shorn. Verses 20 and 21. You and your household shall eat it every year before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which Yahweh chooses. But if it has any defect, such as lameness or blindness or any serious defect, you shall not sacrifice it to Yahweh your Elohim. The firstborn of the herd or flock are to be sacrificed to Elohim at the place that he has specified, which is not accessible at this time. Going back to Deuteronomy 12, which we studied a few weeks ago, starting at verse 5, but you shall seek Yahweh at the place which Yahweh your Elohim shall choose from all your tribes, to establish his name there for his dwelling, and there you shall come. And there you shall bring your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, the contribution of your hand, your votive offerings, your freewill offerings, and the firstborn of your herd and of your flock. There also you and your household shall eat before Yahweh your Elohim, and rejoice in all your undertakings in which Yahweh your Elohim has blessed you. And Deuteronomy 15, verses 22 and 23, you shall eat it within your gates. The unclean and the clean alike may eat it, as a gazelle or a deer. Only you shall not eat its blood. You are to pour it out on the ground like water. Now everyone can eat the offering of the firstborn of the herd or flock. Only don't eat its blood. The blood is supposed to be poured out onto the ground. We're not to eat blood because in the blood is the life of the flesh. Deuteronomy 12, verse 23 says, only be sure to not eat the blood, for the blood is the life, and you shall not eat the life with the flesh. Any questions on Deuteronomy 15?